Welcome to the Law Be With You podcast show. We've got Omar on again, who is a collaborator on the show, a resident guru, a font of knowledge and of cosmic wizardry in comic books and in law. That is your official title, Omar, by the way.
Sounds good.
This is a quick sort of episode, but I know most of our episodes are longer episodes, and there are some longer episodes coming on. So we've got an X-Men episode coming up. And we've also got a Star Wars episode coming up as well. And if you are enjoying the show, please make sure that you follow us on YouTube as well. That's Christian Fandom Geek. Sub the show, like, and comment. Also, if you're listening on Podcast Player on iTunes or there's so many other podcast players. There's Podcast Republic, there's Google Podcast. Make sure that you download the show. Make sure that you leave a comment as well. We really appreciate you on the show, and thank you for listening to the Law Be With You podcast show. Now, quick episode here. We're talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, Omar, obviously these are two. They're not the main characters, but they are big characters within Marvel and the Marvel universe, the comic books and the cinematic universe. And obviously, especially following from Captain America's sort of legacy.
Yeah.
And what did you make of this new Disney Plus TV show? Was it faithful to the comic books? Was it what you expected? Were you impressed with it?
Oh, yes, I was definitely very impressed with it. I think it was a really, really great show.
Yeah,
I've always found that the Captain America films had a very different feel to the rest of the other MCU films,
yeah,
especially everything since The Winter Soldier, the second film. There's a lot more intrigue and a lot more action. And I think the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show kind of played into that. In regards to the kind of show itself, I really liked that it leaned into the legacy of what it means to be Captain America.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I think it's something that's been shown in the films, but I think in general, I think people know on a surface level. And I think this really, really kind of ground down to what it means beyond just Steve Rogers. And
yeah,
I think that was really interesting, and it really did play into a lot of. It was quite a lot of a social commentary on where America is. Captain America in itself as a character has always been a reflection of that, of
mm,
the Captain America himself, as in Steve Rogers, has always been seen as the American ideal, but
mm,
but there's been a lot of stories where he buck against what what America is. So
yeah,
there has been times when he has no longer been Captain America. He has been, most famously a character called Nomad, where he was the captain with no country.
Oh wow! Tell us a
Yeah.
bit more about that.
Well, that really does play into the TV show. That's where John Walker was introduced in the original comics,
Yeah,
where basically Steve Rogers was disillusioned with the American government and he gave up being Captain America, and became Nomad. And then the US government decided to replace him with John Walker, who
wow.
was a lot more of a violent character. But
Mm,
he was created as almost like a kind of a counterpoint to Steve Rogers, just
yeah.
to show kind of the concept of what Captain America really stands for. It's almost a bit like in the early 90s, Batman got his back broken by Bane,
Oh,
famously.
don't go there. Don't go with Batman and Bane.
But eventually he was not replaced by Dick Grayson, Robin. He was replaced by Jean-Paul Valley as Batman, who was an ultra violent character, but he was only created to be a counterpoint to Batman, to show what Batman actually is. Kind of taking it to the other extreme to show
Yeah,
that's not what Batman is. And same thing with John Walker's Captain America. He's that character too, where he takes it to a different place, and it's not kind of the sole ethos of what that character is, just to show really what that legacy is.
yeah. Okay, that's really clever. So it's kind of this kind of juxtaposed sort of situation where you've got this parallel of the faithful, very sort of true version, essence of what the character should be,
Yeah,
i.e., you're talking about Steve Rogers for Captain America, and then sort of John Walker is the sort of the reflection, but showing what it's like when someone's in the role who's not got the right heart, right mindset,
Yes.
right spirit behind him or her, whoever's in that role. You see that sort of okay, that's
Yeah.
not Captain America, and this John Walker character, he may look like him a little bit, he may have the stance, he may have the shield, he might look the part
Yeah.
ostensibly, but actually, if he's not living up to those ideals, if he's not walking the right path, if he's not having a righteous sort of heart,
Yeah.
then it's going to go completely wrong. And we're seeing, looks like Captain America, but not Captain America.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why it's interesting that it's both Falcon and the Winter Soldier kind of spearheading this and kind of showing Captain America's legacy, because in the comics, both of them have been Captain America at different times and have
Yes, I
had to
did know
take
about
that
that.
mantle. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, so it's interesting. There's obviously once again it brings in diversity into the Marvel, and Marvel obviously is very good with diversity, isn't it?
Yes.
As a comic book, as a cinematic universe, they are and in fact, I would say Marvel is how you should do diversity. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
there's some things. I mean, Brie Larson got a lot of criticism for her role in Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of that was brought on by Brie's own how she interacts with the fans, shall we say?
Yeah. But I mean, even that, I mean, Captain Marvel that's not the original Captain Marvel either.
Yeah,
I mean, even in the, I mean, well, it's a very long story, but I mean, the original Captain Marvel is Shazam in.
brilliant. Okay, now so kind of bringing it back to Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Obviously now we've just had the last episode of it. You've seen it. I haven't seen that episode
Yes.
yet. What did you think of? We're not going to spoiler it. So
No.
if you're listening, guys at home, don't worry, we're not going to spoil it if you're not seeing that episode yet. But just general impressions. What did you think of that episode?
I thought it was a really good episode. I think there were some things that I don't think kind of worked out the way that they thought it would, but I think it really did bring to the fore a lot of the themes that's gone from the start of this series to the end. You
Yeah,
can definitely see that the creators had something that they wanted to say about Captain America, about kind of the American culture in itself. And they kind of followed that through to the end of the show and kind of brought that to a conclusion. I do think the villains in themselves probably weren't the most interesting. I
yeah.
think,
I think I would agree with you there. I mean Carly's the main villain, isn't she?
yeah,
And obviously they've gone with the whole sort of superpower trope, which is good because it fits. It's very coherent to Captain America and
yeah,
the whole sort of. I guess this is a Captain America show,
yeah,
and so they're all the main villains being super soldiers that have had the serum. That works. It's coherent. It,
yeah,
it's playing safe. I think it's playing very safe, maybe almost too safe in a way.
yeah,
Um, but I would probably say it kind of works. But yeah, I think Carly is a villain. She's interesting, but she's not dominant. She's not.
yeah, yeah. I
She
mean,
doesn't.
yeah, it's one of those ones. It's like my favorite villains are the ones where if you actually kind of sat down with them, they've kind of got a point. And she was a bit like that. Like my favorite villain will always be Magneto because, to be honest, he really does have a good point, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But obviously he goes with it in like
Well, let me
in a
ask you
very
a
bad
question.
way.
Let me ask you the question then, because obviously, and we will talk about this more on an episode we got coming up right after this one, actually. But there isn't an idea or concept of an anti-hero, and so some comic book fans, actually, to be fair, book fans will know what an anti-hero is, but
Yeah,
those who watch the films casually and enjoy Marvel and DC, but are not really going exhaustively into the lore,
yeah,
they might not know what an anti-hero is. So just give us an idea, because obviously some villains are out and out villains, and
yeah.
some not. Some are more of an anti-hero. So what is the briefly, what is the difference?
Well, there's two very famous ones that have been in movies that are anti-heroes that kind of do take that. Deadpool,
Yeah,
and Venom.
yeah,
It's
okay,
where they are heroes. They have kind of almost good intentions, but the way that they go about it is not particularly the kind of the hero's way.
yeah,
And that's kind of how I would say anti-heroes are, where that another one is Punisher. Punisher is he is no hero by any means. He is an
mm,
anti-hero. He's someone who will kill. He will there isn't much that he won't do to actually kind of achieve his goals. Um
mm, mm.
so yeah, and I mean one that's quite interesting, and I think they set him up, but I think they kind of missed the mark, was Baron Zemo, because
Okay,
he
yeah,
because I mean he was an infinitely more interesting villain to have in the show.
yeah. Then
But I mean,
Carly.
yeah, than Carly.
Mm.
Because he does kind of toe to a few different lines. I mean, but he's kind of not an anti-hero because he is definitely on the villain side. But I
Mm.
mean, in the comic books in the 90s, well, this is going into the lore, but there was actually a super team called the Thunderbolts,
Okay.
um, where he was the leader. Basically, there was a storyline called the Onslaught Saga, where basically all the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, Captain America, Iron Man, all of them, they all disappeared and was taken to another dimension so basically our Earth didn't have any of the Avengers anymore.
Mm.
So Baron Zemo decided to re kind of rebrand himself and some villains as superheroes, so that they got all the adulation and they were doing superhero stuff, but in the background we're doing villainous stuff. It's really cool.
They
I
were
mean, it
playing
was
for
one.
both sides.
Yeah, he was playing both sides basically, and he went under the name Citizen V. So in the first comic book, it was one of the kind of biggest turns in the 90s in comic book history, where
When you
basically
say turn, are we thinking of like wrestling like a heel turn?
yes, it was, because when they introduced the Thunderbolts, they introduced them as new characters, as a new superhero team to replace the Avengers.
Mm.
But it was only until the last page of the first issue that you actually realize that it's Baron Zemo, and it's like all these villains, the masters of evil, were actually masquerading as heroes.
Oh my
It was like
gosh,
one of the biggest turns, because you thought these were like new heroes, and they really weren't.
that's a clever storyline.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow,
so
very good.
I mean, I'm hoping. I mean, we see Zemo is still around, so we never know. We could get a Thunderbolts kind of
Well,
reference or
the
somewhere
thing
there.
is actually, he's got very famous because of that dance scene.
Yes, yes.
He's been he's been memed to the living daylights and back.
Well,
Uh,
Marvel actually released on YouTube a 10-hour like loop of Baron Zemo dancing, which I think is just brilliant.
there you go, folks at home, fans of the Law Be With You podcast show. If you want to get your groove on at home, and Baron Zemo edition, you can really get your boogie onto that one. So that would be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to throw some shapes or do some of them Fortnite sort of maneuvers on there, but there you go. If you fancy that one, I'm sure you'll find that on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Um, I'll have to find a link for that and put it on the
Yeah, I think
Christian
it's on.
fan.
I think it's on the Marvel. I think it's on the Marvel channel. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've come to the end of this episode, and we will be back with Omar very, very soon on the Law Be With You podcast show.